Welcome back to the Bassline podcast. This week we have Marcus Lange and guest host Pete Dorr. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you so much for having us.
It is an honor.
And a privilege.
If only everybody else heard the beginning of all this and how many times we had to start and stop getting this episode going. That's why this is hilarious. All right, so let's jump into it and talk about your background and how long you've been playing.
All right, yeah. So tell me about the first night. You were down in Norman. We were at Frank's Club. Well, it wasn't Frank's Club, but it was where he was playing.
Yeah, for a party that Frank McCright threw, DJ Love. A mutual friend of Peter and I's convinced me to go out on a night that I didn't want to. And I stood there watching the turntables for a very long period of time, or at least it felt like it, trying to figure out why the red dots were spinning in different directions. Anyway, so
you're talking about the red dots on
the side of a turntable platter, right?
Yeah,
like something that people probably don't even know these days. But, anyways, so then Pete comes outside and is talking to me after a set, and he just kind of goes off on a tangent about all of this music and DJing because he thought I was interested, and I wasn't actually. I was just trying to figure out why the dots were going different directions. But kind of after that night, we became good friends and ran around and did everything together. I'd already been in the scene for a while, but as a patron, not just a lover of music. Pete introduced me to the world of DJing and house, and he at the time was living in Stillwater and kept inviting me up there to hang out. So one day I finally bummed a ride from somebody and got dropped off at some gig that Pete was doing. I think it was like a wedding or something though, or
oh God, I hope not.
Yeah, some weird sketchy little place. Anyway, so I spent maybe 4 or 5 days at Pete's doing nothing. He would go to class and come home, and I stayed there the whole time playing with his turntable.
And what year was this?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
93. 93.
Yeah, it was obviously fuzzy all back then, of course. But I remember getting you into it, of course, and anytime I started talking about this thing, I wasn't going off on some tangent.
Oh yeah,
I was going into a deep explanation.
That's called a tangent.
No, a tangent is off topic. This was purely on topic. It was just
the Pete hands were going.
Yeah.
So it was a tangent. You were telling me about things that I'm like, okay. So I just sat there. I think I nodded a lot, and he just told me all stuff with the hands.
So, but you got a whole lot more out of it, not just for me. And there's obviously lots of other people that were influenced in your life, and who are those people?
So, I mean, mentor-wise, started off you, and Steve Morton, who was the DJ at the Rec Room during the time, and Travis Chapman, who was DJ Dopey at the time. He's since passed. Then when I started working at the Rec Room, Checkers, who was the DJ at Angles at the time, Michael to Checkerides, he kind of took me under and helped me understand the industry a little bit better. He was a Billboard reporter too.
Okay.
So I got a lot of records that way too. He played
the promos and stuff.
Yeah, he played a lot of stuff that was more poppy, Mr. Vane kind of stuff. So he would give me all of his extra promos that weren't that were more of the underground house stuff.
That's nice.
Tony Acco, who was playing at Club One in Dallas at the time, but was from Oklahoma City. He took me under his wing for a while I was at the Rec. Also, he ran the North Texas Dance Association, which was a record pool down there that dealt with the major labels. So he would bring lots, like every time he'd come up to and play with me at the rec, he'd bring me like a box of promos, which was awesome. So even still to this day, I think probably almost half of my record collection was
It's from Tony.
And Checkers, yeah.
Yeah.
From their mail flow stuff.
What's Checkers?
It's a game.
Walked into that one. Yeah.
Didn't I?
Checkers was the main DJ at Angles for many years. An icon of the place, and definitely he was a foundation for the building, and I don't know. It was a real honor. I've played at Angles a couple times. Marcus has played there, obviously a whole lot more than I did. But even walking into that booth, that was amazing. The amount of electronics and everything else, the sound system he had at your control. It was the thing was definitely built for DJs. It was a phenomenal system. But so going back to the rec room, describe the rec room and what.
Oh, man, I meant to bring pictures this time to
for a podcast. That's
for a podcast, but to show
Right.
to show them what it used to be like. The rec room was amazing. By far the best residency I've ever had. Even this, I mean, the way that the building was set up, the DJ booth wasn't even on the dance floor. It was out off to the side. I could see the whole dance floor, but like it's not like things are now. Like there weren't a bunch of people standing in front of the DJ booth staring at me all night.
Right.
Like there was music, and there was, my job was to help to create drama on the dance floor, but the show was out there. Right.
Yeah.
I was the for a long time I was the only DJ 3 nights a week. Thursdays ran on average until probably about 4 a.m. Fridays about 5 to 6, somewhere in there. Saturdays, throughout the time that I was there, we would typically always make it till 6, but we had days that we would make it up to like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Damn.
Yeah, insane. Absolutely insane. And you got to know that like the capacity of this place was by fire code standards or whatever, the building should have been 300 people, 400 people.
Well, we started getting so busy that they remodeled. Right.
Yeah.
So originally there was less space. We started getting so busy that they knocked out a bar that took up maybe.
Oh, the front half.
No, that too. But the bar used to be at the back of the dance floor.
Right.
Not in that little room with the window.
Right.
So it took up that gave the dance floor probably a 20% increase in space. And then they ripped out the entry hallway that was on the front side of the building, moved the entrance to the back so there wasn't a line of people going down 39th Street at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Which definitely, I think that
done
was
it at the same time.
That was definitely a very good improvement. To take the entrance back out to the back.
Yes. We still ended up with a line into the street, but around the building instead of everybody going down the front sidewalk.
And this was in Oklahoma City?
This
It was a centralized hub, whatever, for all these other gay clubs that are in this little district. And this is the middle spot. All these other gay clubs, they all close at 2 o'clock. So what do? All these people filter out of these other places and they go to, somewhat sober up, right? Out there. And the place got packed. But it wasn't just like these local gay clubs. It was clubs from all over the city that would come filter into this one building. And so you just had this amazing collage of just vastly different people, personalities and styles, and, just from lowest tramp up to the, most expensive people you can think of running around town until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. They're all just there to fucking party. That's it.
So it was awesome.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yep.
How long did you do that?
3 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
About halfway through, Dustin Skiles started playing with me. So he would kind of open and close for the most part. And you know, if I went and played outside the club, then he would take the spot. Pete also did that for me sometimes. But yeah.
Well, definitely the times that I played there, it was a real honor to play there. I mean, I always enjoyed it, and I don't know. Yeah, definitely, I can understand why you would hold this as kind of like the pinnacle of your abilities and
Whoa.
like I said, I think the best I've ever heard you play was out there.
Well, how did you get that residency in the first place?
He's being modest here when he says this answer, so go ahead and answer.
How did I get it?
Yeah.
I made a mixtape and I gave it to Checkers.
Really?
He worked his ass off at learning how to perfect mixes, do well, the right kind of music for the crowd and everything else. He kicked ass. Basically, they came up and asked him.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
No, then how did it
I
happen?
gave Checkers a mixtape and filled out an application.
Oh, but there was much more behind the scenes behind that.
There was more behind it. There was the DJ that was there before me didn't think that I was a good fit. But Steve Morton, who was really good friends with Checkers, is the one who really, put in the good word for me that got me the spot.
Well, I think it was that, and there were lots of other people I'm sure that were having that influence. But clearly, the decision they made was the right one. You took the club and you blew it up.
Yeah. So after some time had passed, he called me up one morning because he was DJing in After Hours Club as well. Called me up afterwards and gave me a what sounded to be a heartfelt apology, and I know that he meant it, but at the time it was probably not in my preferred state of mind for an apology. So I told him to call back. I was like, dude, go sleep. Call me back tomorrow and tell me when you're sober.
So for purposes of this interview, this is entirely up to you. Do you actually want to mention a name of who this mystery person is?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So did he call you the next day?
No, but I mean, we ended up good friends. So I managed one of his clubs. I managed his record store. So all the stuff happening afterwards. We ended up in the same production company together for years and years. So water under the bridge.
So tell me about obviously some of the more memorable times you've had. I know you and I both had amazing times with this, but tell me about the Circle. What was the Circle in Oklahoma City for everyone?
Okay, so the Circle happened before I was at the Rec, and that was kind of where I got my feet wet.
Playing for a crowd.
Well, yeah, playing for a crowd, but also just all the other environmental variables that don't happen in a bedroom.
Right.
So there was a cul-de-sac that was at the end of Long Road in just outside of Bricktown that went from Bricktown under I-40 and ended in a cul-de-sac. There were no houses. It was nothing. It was like they started to build something and then didn't. So there's high grass.
Yeah, and this is just south of the heart of downtown Oklahoma City.
Right. And
you could have been out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's just like this field, and of course, off in the distance a little bit was I-40 is a raised highway. So with the road noise and everything else, you couldn't hear anything. We'd go back there with the sound system, and you'd have 50 to 100 cars or whatever, and maybe that many people, and people were driving by. And never knew a thing. No one ever knew anything.
You used a generator?
We did. We used a guy, Reed, that was also a part of the stuff that we were doing out there, and really probably driving it more than any of the rest of us. His sound system, his generator, we'd take all that stuff out there and get it set up.
Funny thing was that, of course, this became a big kind of a proving ground for a lot of people that no name anybody who wanted to get started in this thing. And Reed would come walking in. He would put a piece of paper down the back hood of his car, and put this thing down with time slots. And you know, if you were the first to line up to walk up there and put your name at the particular time, that's the time you got. So in other words, you didn't get there early, you got the worst time slot. So it became a kind of a big competition for people like to, you know, try to get themselves in line at the right time to be able to pick up the time slots that they wanted. Huh. And your time slot was like, was it 45 minutes per slot or something? You didn't have a whole lot of time because there's
it's probably about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think because there was 12 people that wanted to play.
Well, and most of us didn't have enough records to go.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, outside of like a couple of people that came out and played, like Pete and Steve, we, you know, all of us were starting at the same time, right? We're still working on like filling our first crate. You know, and at the time in Oklahoma City, you know, we had the places where we bought our records from. All we could do is read who the producers were, things like that. There wasn't a listening station, so we just had to guess. Yeah. So you know, I have half of a crate filled, and half of it's probably more or less trash.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't just sometimes that. It's like even if you got the right producer, but sometimes you'd listen to it in the store, if you could listen to it in the store, and go, man, that sounds great. And then you actually get it out and buy it, and you're like, oh my God, it sounds like trash. It's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, most of us grew up together that were a part of that group. You know, either went to high school together or skateboarded together. So all of us had known each other for quite a while before we started DJing together.
Well, how long did it take you once you got into it to really, you know, I don't know, I guess get good at it?
Oh, he's still working on it.
Is it work in progress?
It always is, though.
I was still, you know, slipping pretty bad on mixes whenever I started working at the Rec. So probably maybe 6 months after I started working there that I was actually comfortable DJing, and, you know, getting to the point to where I could really be creative.
So tell me about the mixer that's up there. Obviously, what you practiced on at home was different from what at the Rec.
Yes. The mixer at the Rec was a Bozak. It was an amazing mixer.
And where is this mixer now?
Tony Acco has that mixer now.
Mm. And the mixer that is from Angles is?
At my house.
Amazing bit of memorabilia.
It was handed down to me actually real recently. Yeah. So, but I also have a Bozak. I bought my Bozak while I was still at the Rec. So when I started, I didn't have the same mixer at home, but by the time I left, I did.
So for people who don't know the difference between, you know, other types of mixers, whatever, and this Bozak versus a Yuri versus even with the mixer that you've got now, so tell me some of the differences on that.
All right. So the Bozak's a rotary mixer. It was made with pretty high-end components. It was one of the first mixers that was designed for DJing, like nightclub type of DJing. So the Bozak was kind of like the strong player during the 70s. The Yuri, which is kind of the predecessor to it, was it was the face design is almost the same, with the addition of a booth gain and some other things, right? Okay. And it was, you know, it kind of lived through the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. And then that's kind of when the sliders started taking over the clubs. You know, faders instead of rotaries.
Right, yeah.
That seems to be taking a turn again, where the rotaries are starting to pick up a lot more popularity. So. And
tell me what your mixer now.
It's a Rain MP 2015.
Yeah, that thing is gorgeous.
Which is fucking badass.
Yeah.
It is. I love it. So I have a lot of knobs at my house.
Oh my God.
I knew there was a joke in there somewhere. No, I love still my favorite feature. The new Rain one is the sub channel on it.
The sub channel is very cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, especially with the sync capabilities now, where running 4 tracks is pretty simple versus the old days where you actually had to keep it all going yourself. Being able to assign, and I don't even know if I went through the submix stuff with Pete yet. So you can take, say, if you've got, if you're layering up multiple tracks, and you have an acapella going, and you want to cut the with filter or EQ parts out on 2 or 3 of the channels that you're playing, you can assign those to the submix, and the submix will control all the channels at one time.
The ones that are assigned to it, so
Yes.
you can affect just certain, tracks in the music, and
So if I want to
some unfiltered.
So if I want to cut the bass out of 2 or 3 of the channels and leave the acapella running, I can do that without having to fumble around with. I'm doing finger motions. You can't see this. Without having to fumble around with all 3 channels at the same time. You assign them all to the submix, and then you can just work from there. So,
I don't think Melanie gets it.
I never get it. Sounds interesting, though.
it's
Yeah.
I mean,
It's very cool.
yeah, it's awesome.
And you just got it recently, right?
2 months ago? No, a month ago.
About a month ago, yeah.
Wow.
Just before the Chineglia show in Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had an opportunity to play on it, and that rain mixer is simply badass.
Yep.
Was playing on it last night, still trying to figure out how to make things work the way you want it to work, to make it sound right.
Yeah.
You can get some level of detail in there that or level of precision that you couldn't get from other mixers easily.
So, well, and it has the built-in isolator tool, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Which is so that's one of those weird things. So, like, if you look at the design of the new mixer, it's based off of how the older crowd of DJs would put stuff together. So they would have the Bozak or the Yuri, and then they would have 1 or 2 ISOs in the rack. Usually the meter as one of the U's, and that's all stuff that came about from the Richard Lange and Associates, the guys that designed Paradise Garage and Sound Factory, their sound systems.
Oh, okay.
So you'll see a lot of people that have the Richard Lange stack of stuff inside of a little rack mount unit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
So basically, they took all that stuff and stuck it into one unit.
Wow. I'd probably set you back a pretty penny, I'm sure. I haven't even looked into how much those things are.
They're expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I bet.
Yeah.
I probably don't even want to know.
But once you get it, I don't know. Obviously, it's a little bit overkill for doing what he's doing right now. It's a club mixer.
Right.
It's made for a big freaking sound system, and it seems a little overkill to have it just for monkeying around in your bedroom, right? But I don't know. Either way,
It's my life.
He can do whatever he wants.
That's right.
Oh. All right, so the circle. Sorry. Did we finish that? We didn't. Did we?
Did we?
yeah, I guess I don't know.
So nobody ever got in trouble for doing it, and how long
No.
did it go?
Well, no.
6
So
months?
we had some. It's about 6 months.
Was it you're saying it's in the middle of nowhere?
No,
It seemed like
in
it was in the middle of nowhere, but it's right south of
It's
downtown.
actually in a building, though?
No,
because it's
outside the cul-de-sac
Oh.
field. It was a road that dead-ended back
I see.
underneath Highway 40. And so this grass was super tall, and so people driving by any one of the main streets, you could have 50 cars back there, and because the grass was so tall, no one could see anything. And of course, because the highway was so close, no one could hear anything either. There's no houses, no buildings, nothing around, nothing that would possibly have made people drive back down that way. So no one ever knew about it.
Well, and Bricktown hadn't been developed yet. Right.
Right.
There were like a couple clubs down there, the Spaghetti Warehouse, and
yeah.
the KJ 103 Haunted Warehouse or Cat Haunted Warehouse or whatever it was.
That's right. Yeah.
That was about it. So we did have cops visit a couple times. Came out, looked around. They were just like, the changeover's at 4. You probably don't want to be here when those guys come on duty. and that was it. So we just always made sure that we were packing up by 4. And they would come out every once in a while and check to make sure nothing was going on. That was it.
But the times that were there, I mean, the thing about it was building, I suppose, either a healthy relationship or competitive relationship between you and other DJs and people that were a part of this, and it really gave you an opportunity to play off other people and
it was great, and a lot of what came from the group of people that were doing that is what rolled into Worldwide Soul Tribe, which is probably where I spent the most of my time with a production company during my career.
Yeah. But I mean, the nice thing about it, because he had this list that he popped down, the sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
It wasn't like favoritism. You couldn't say, well, you want top billing spot or whatever, because, I mean, hell, there's 50 people, there's 100 people there, right?
Right, yeah.
But either way, it leveled the playing field for anyone, and it was about playing. It was about playing the music and having a great time. And not about, oh, here, this is so and so. Here, you got to give them the best spot.
Right. Yeah.
And if
That's
you're
really
a
cool.
crappy DJ and ended up a really good spot, you just had to deal with people bitching about it for your 45 minutes.
Right.
And they did.
So you kind of learned your lesson. Maybe didn't do that again next time, or
Or just encourage them to get better. Have them, because
true.
of course if they weren't that good, then they might get an opportunity to see some of the other people play, and they themselves would pick up a style and or learn a couple tricks here and there and get better.
yeah.
But either way, I mean, the point was at least that there was no attitude or ego that could really get in the way. You could get up and play, and if you kicked ass, you kicked ass, and you earned, I suppose, credit that way. But it wasn't about coming out to hear as one specific person. Or saying you're gonna walk into this place or walk into the area and for top billing, which again, top billing that's like retarded.
Right.
To even think of it.
So we're
It's like you're the 50 people. Oh wow, you're the king of 50 people.
right. But pretty much everybody that would come out to play is about the same level, or
Yeah.
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 About the same level, about the same amount of time. I mean, it was like mostly like me and Reed, Jason Jacobs, Graham Anderson, who's DJ Diverse. Like I said, Pete and Steve came out sometimes, but for the most part, it was all new people.
Okay. Kind of a good way to get experience. And
There's a proving
play for the
ground.
crowd.
Yeah, a good way to get the experience in front of people and just of course, you try to do this at someone's house, the neighbors get called,
Yeah.
or the neighbors call the police. But out there, we could be super loud, and I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah. So, and clubs then weren't like now, right? One, most of us weren't old enough to get into half of them.
Right.
And clubs had one DJ, maybe two. There definitely wasn't 10 playing in a night. There wasn't, and there usually wasn't a different one each day of the week. So the job opportunities just weren't there. So we threw our own parties.
And then transition from there, and of course I will feed off the first interview again by saying, you have that, and then you go into, talking about back in the day, you kind of had to train under somebody and get pretty much the stamp of approval to get positions.
Yeah, well, yes. So I mean, you had to go through a mentoring thing, not like an official thing. It just,
This is totally unofficial.
You had it, there wasn't the internet, right? There wasn't books. There, you had to have someone teach you and explain.
There wasn't books.
There wasn't books.
What year was this again?
On the subject, there weren't books.
There were
on
not
the
books on
subject.
the subject. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So someone had to teach you, and there were also, the DJs that were at these clubs are kind of the gatekeeper, right? Like if you didn't prove yourself to them, you weren't going to get to play at a club.
Right.
And so, you had to work with the DJs that were already in the club to, we'll let you get in and play and start to develop a fan base. It wasn't a. I approach a club owner and am like, well, I'll DJ for half of whatever your DJ is paying. That crap didn't go on back then.
Okay.
So you couldn't just slide in and do it.
Yeah.
And that was the same situation whenever I started working at the Rec, right? Is I have one guy that's saying no, and if it wasn't for Steve stepping in, I wouldn't have gotten the spot.
So where did you go after that?
After I left the Rec, I started. I got more involved with doing the Worldwide Soul Tribe parties. A group of us that would get together and either do stuff in clubs or rent out armories.
Or kick in doors of warehouses.
That
Totally illegal.
Right.
That happened a few times. That most of that was Reed. In fact, one party that I played at for him, I didn't even know that they'd kicked the door in. and the cops show up, and but Reed's like, "No, we totally rented this place. It's cool." And the cops are like, "Oh no,
Where's the paperwork?
Yeah.
Who's the owner, right?
So, he's got this big generator rented, but it's outside in the back of the building, so I never saw the generator before I went in there. But yeah, so that happened on a few occasions. That was actually earlier though. Like that Reed died when I was midway through the Rec. So after I left the Rec, that we weren't still doing that stuff. And most of us by that point were, over 21, so we weren't as risk-taking as we used to be.
Right, yeah.
So we started doing a lot of armory parties. Mainly because the local police couldn't shut them down because they're government property, typically state or federal. And we had this awesome group of security guards that were Capitol Police.
Yeah.
So they handled the cops. If the cops came, they would walk down and meet them at their cars and have a little talk, and then the cops were always pretty cool about it, and we'd just leave.
Party unfettered.
Cool.
Yeah. So, so we really never had any problems through that stuff. And we, after the first party that we did at 23rd, we didn't think that they were going to let us use the armories anymore. And
I would ask why, but then again, maybe not.
The place was trash, and we got it cleaned up. There were a few issues with and we had to yell at kids for this crap all the time. They like to tag, and I'm like, dude, why? You're trying to make yourself famous with a pen, but if you're gonna be a graffiti artist, be a graffiti artist.
Right.
Don't,
Yeah, because they're totally gonna get known writing their name on the bathroom wall at the armory.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Look at that guy! Oh my God, he's famous.
Right, but all it really did was cause us a bunch of problems with people that losing venues and crap. So then there was one guy that busted a toilet in half.
Jesus.
What me?
How do you do that?
That wasn't at the armory.
Wow.
That was at a different place.
Is it like vertically in half?
Right down the middle?
We don't know. And the same guy the same night there was an incident so there were hay bales at this party.
What's that party without hay bales?
It's not.
What the hell's idea was that? What's
What?
happening?
Were
Hay
they
bales?
stacked close together?
So so this was
drinks we consider lobster craws and hay bales.
right.
What
So
the fuck?
Okay, so I'll get to that. It will make total sense in a second. Anyway, so the dude's trying to light little pieces of straw, and we're like, and it's like a wall of hay bales. I'm like, dude, you can't. You're gonna burn the place down.
Wow.
So that particular person pissed me off a lot over the years, but
Was it Pete?
Was me.
it wasn't.
No, I
it
don't
wasn't.
see him doing that.
His ass is wound so tight. There's no way he would do stuff like that.
Wow.
I can't deny that.
So it was and this was the first New Year's party that the Worldwide Soul Tribe did, and mostly Reed, and it was at a. You played my spot at the Rec that night, actually.
Well, while you were out doing something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in Del City, off of I want to say 29th Street. It was some kind of Country Hall of Fame thing.
Weird.
So that's why there were hay bales. But it was a place where they did big country.
Boot scooting.
Boot scooting.
I've heard about these things.
Yes. So, that's why there were hay bales. Makes total sense.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't ever get to use that venue again. So, because there was tagging everywhere, and the busted toilet, and the fire.
How did the toilet get busted?
She can't get over this.
We don't know. We know who busted it. I don't know how it got.
I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. I
wouldn't
would think.
think,
It
yeah.
was like in half.
Just to
Or
be clear, the hail bales,
hay.
hay bales.
fire, were they on fire?
No.
It was
no,
successful.
because there were
Okay,
enough
good.
people there that were smart enough to slap his
Well,
hand.
yeah, that's a little generous.
Thank God.
I said enough. I said there were enough. I didn't say they were all.
Okay.
There were enough to stop it.
How many people does it take to stop one dude from lighting a hay bale on fire?
Dude, we had
A team of 20.
We had a
on-
guy
on
light
the
a couch
scene.
on fire at one of our shows one time, and
Jesus.
the fire trucks come, and the whole show's postponed, and we're just like, can we play? Should I load in, or should I leave my shit in the car? And they won't tell you anything. And
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Wow.
it's like what that bar 10 years ago, whatever, that was in some weird place like Nebraska.
Oh,
They-
yeah.
They the whole place went up in flames and killed a bunch of
Talking
people.
about like
Oh,
White
wow.
Snake. Yeah, White Snake.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
because they had
that was horrible.
Killed like
pyrotechnics.
110 people or something
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So I mean,
All because they decided they wanted to lock the doors, lock the emergency exits.
Yeah, and then they had the pyrotechnics that
Yeah.
had
the place on
issues,
fire?
and yeah. And then everybody after that was like, no more pyrotechnics. They got really big about that.
I like how we can hear your e-cig every time.
Right.
It's actually kind of a cool sound.
It is.
Someone should sample it. Throw it in, loop it, filter it.
Nice. If you could only get a visual on that.
Right,
Just
yeah.
happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then after that, well, really, what type of, what style of music do you play?
house, but pretty all over the spectrum. And there's a lot of stuff outside of house that I play.
Such as?
Techno, breaks. It has to be typically something that's a big standout if it's breakbeat. Or something that's just really weird.
Yeah.
But lately I've gotten a lot. I've gone through phases where I've gotten more into techno and more out of techno. Right now I'm in a phase where I'm a little more into techno. At some points I played progressive house, on and off, but it's always revolved around house as a core.
What
Yeah.
do you think keeps house so relevant for so long?
It's simple. Some of it's not. Some of it, they pigeonhole themselves, things like Speed Garage and other offshoots. But there's not a lot to the equation, right? I mean, there's not a lot of things that are a part of it that aren't timeless. Like pianos are timeless. For the most part, synth stuff has become kind of timeless, depending on how. I'm not big on stabby stuff, but to me that gets kind of datey. But I mean, basic bassline, kick drum, hi hats. I mean, it was disco. Disco evolved into house, and house is just disco. So I think it has staying power because it at its core doesn't sell out, or at least has enough people that keep the core not crappy music that it sticks around, has staying power. So, and it is an acquired taste.
And everything else just kind of becomes, fads based on a foundation of house or to some respect.
Yeah. I mean, other things have stuck, I mean, drum and bass is stuck. And it's...
Sadly.
No, I don't. I disagree with that. I think some of it is genius, and house has taken bits of it back, as far as the innovations that have happened. A lot of the time stretching and more faster, more intricate type of drumming techniques have been brought back into a lot of house stuff that came from the evolution of drum and bass. So, and I think there's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of crappy stuff, but all genres are like that.
Absolutely. What did you start with? Did you start with house, or did you start outside of it?
DJing wise, I started in house.
Okay.
That dude.
Right.
So started with house, absolutely. As far as electronic music goes, I was, I grew up way into Depeche Mode and New Order and Erasure, a lot of the 80s synth pop stuff. That alongside, punk rock and ska, because I was a skater. That's just what we listened to. So, but yeah, so I mean, I understood electronic. I mean, I've been going out to the rec for a couple of years before Pete and I ever met. But the music was, during those days more goth.
Right.
So I wasn't new to the idea of a DJ or electronic music, or that something was happening mixing wise. I just didn't know what any of it was.
Right.
And those dots.
And those dots. Well, and to explain to people that might not know, there's that little red light on the side with the, was it 3 or 4 rows of dots?
There's 4 rows.
4 rows of dots.
And that will display the timing, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's speed?
It's the speed.
Yeah,
it's a percentage of the speed that's there.
Yeah.
And the red light is strobing at a very high rate that you can't even tell. But the size of the dots and the distance between the dots, as they're traveling under the strobe, it will give the illusion that they're moving different directions.
Yes.
Based on the percentage of pitch that you're at.
Okay.
Basically, yeah, you don't use them for mixing.
Right, no.
You use them to fine tune. If you wanted to take 2 tables, what you can do is time stretch like how fast, whatever, like if it says +8, as you move the control to +8, it's going to be either 4% or 16% faster or slower from 0 pitch. And so if you want to fine tune turntables, you want to make 8%.
8%.
And 8% on the other turntable, you can use those dots to help you line up to make sure to
calibrate it.
Yeah, to calibrate it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so there's this little blue screw that's inside a turn that's inside of the
pop
Techniques.
the platter off.
That you can adjust it. So like when you're looking at the pitch control, it's ±8, right? But it's not really. Right, you can
tweak it.
You can tweak it, and the only way you know what, like when you walk into a club, the only way you really know what percentage it's at is by you grab the pitch control and move it to like 6, and if the dot for 6 hasn't stopped, then you know that they're not tuned to 8.
So, and one of the reasons you might want to do something like this, if you have records that are, say, like you have one record that's playing at 116 beats per minute and one record's playing at 138 or something, it's quite a variation. It's quite a spread between the 2 different speeds. Right. So you have to take the 116 to speed it up as fast as you can go, and the 138 as slow as it can go, and hopefully you'll find some common ground between the 2. But if you don't have, if it's still too far of a spread, that dot or that blue dial that's inside can help you find that common ground from the being able to take the 138, slow it down far enough, and the 116 and speed it up fast enough to be able to find some common ground, 124, 126, something like that.
Right.
And but most of the music that we're playing right now is right around, I don't know, from 126 to 130 or so.
Right.
So the variation, this type of market is definitely centered closely around this one speed. It seems to be a pretty comfortable speed for most people.
Right.
So if you take the dial and you speed it up, and give you, rather than going from 0 to +8 on
Who's interviewing?
Yeah. Wait, whose podcast is this anyway?
I'll be
But-
done.
but
I'll be
continue
done in a
your thoughts.
This is
second.
great.
This is what you call a tangent.
Yes. No,
No,
this
it's
is a
still
deep
on
dive
topic.
into a
Actually,
very
this is-
specific
I
subject.
asked the
Right.
question,
True.
yes.
Okay.
And so, if you take the dial and bring it, slide it forward up to +8, you might be at 16% if you've got the knob cranked all the way forward. But if you, same thing, if you take the dial and crank it back quite a bit, what you do is you can sacrifice, or it sacrifices
The range.
yeah, the range for the ability to be able to zoom in and get very accurate. So in other words, if you move the slider very small bit of differences, you can have either a very big impact, which
Right.
is bad for accuracy, or a minor amount of change for
Okay.
greater accuracy. And so that's why some people mess around with those things. That's the whole thing behind the dots, is be able to take these two turntables and adjust them so that you can make them pitch perfect for each other.
Huh. Interesting.
And that was kind of the speech that I gave Marcus yay long ago, which all of a sudden he was like,
Yeah, just like I just did, where I was kind of like,
yeah.
I can stop talking. So
Sort
it's
of
good to
like-
know
sort-
things haven't
sort of like-
changed.
Yeah, sort of like Charlie Brown with the teachers. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, right.
I thought I was going to get to take a nap.
You almost could have, yeah.
So that was a lot of talking for some dots.
Yeah, it wasn't a tangent. It was spot on.
Justin, quit asking questions like that, okay?
Well, I just thought people might want to know.
So when did you move from turntables to, I don't know what you call it, like a laptop?
I moved to CDs first.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I didn't like losing
Your hands.
just the tactile kind of thing of flipping through something, right? And my career is in computers, and DJing was always that thing that where I didn't have to get computers involved. It was like my away from that kind of thing, staring at a screen all day long. So definitely went to CDs first. I think that was in 2000. 4 or 5. He can trim it out, just like he's gonna have to cut that thing that you just did out.
No, I won't.
So yeah, somewhere around 2004 is when I switched to CDs, and then I bought my first digital setup. I think like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. 4 years ago. How old's my kid?
Oh, wow.
She's 4.5. So I think I got my first digital. So about 4 years, maybe 3.5. So.
Yeah, but now you're running tractor.
No, I'm running tractor. Yes, I miss records, but tractor's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for no one who knows what Tractor is,
Tractor is a piece of software for DJing.
that explains a lot.
What?
So
enough.
it's a way to play your MP3s, waves, AIFs, whatever. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. but
Right.
So go into the sort of detail then, please.
Oh man, really? Yeah. They don't care.
Pete is trying to figure out what tractor is for himself.
Yes, he's learning this right now. So
Yeah, I know.
he's,
I'm like-
True, yes.
Like, Jesus,
He's making the transition.
a private tutorial for Peter Dorr.
Right.
Public tutorial for Peter.
That's right. Yeah, so it allows you to load music up into decks. There's different ways to control it. You can do it either through a DVS setup, where you can use timecode vinyl to control the decks. You can do the same thing with time-coded CDs. You can use sync buttons. You can buy outboard components to plug into it, so you don't. So back to the whole I don't like messing with my computer thing. I have a bunch of outboard components that I use to control Tractor's features, being able to load software, search through the library, change the effects, mess with filters, things like that. So, and then it gets into more detail where you can use like remix decks and stuff like that. And I have different outboard panels for that, but we don't need to go that deep. So
typically,
you won't get to the remix decks before the next time I'm here, so it's cool.
Right. I just learned where the power button was. I learned how to turn it on and off just like recently. So
it's a start.
Baby steps.
Right, you got to start somewhere.
And speaking of start,
today he learned how to right click on Mac.
Oh, that's a big step.
So we're walking out the door, and I'm giving him crap for playing Runestone or Rune, whatever. And I'm like, he said something about, do I need to bring my laptop with me? I go, why? So you can RuneScape. That's what it said. He said so you can play RuneScape, and he's like, I don't think I can do that on a Mac. It takes a lot of of the right mouse clicking. And I'm like, 2 fingers, dude. That's it.
How did you think that it worked before that?
He thought there was only single clicking on a Mac.
Oh.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. For a long time, there really was only a single click for a fucking Mac.
No, you could buy since like the 3rd or 4th OS, you could buy a 2-button mouse and it worked. And that was like, I mean,
now there's tons of like hand gestures and stuff you can do.
Yeah.
Well, and even the mice now that you buy, they don't have 2 buttons. It's touch sensitive.
What did just like a second ago you told me this interview was about you?
It is.
Although yesterday
and about how he's teaching you about
rather than a public berating on my fucking Mac skills. Give me a break.
Although yesterday Marcus told me to do something and I was touching the screen on the computer.
Oh my god.
He said click on that and I touched the screen. So don't feel bad. You're not alone.
Well, touch
like
screen.
why am I touching the screen? It's not going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, why doesn't he have a touchscring monitor? That's what I would say, dude. Well, look, asshole. What the fuck's my touchscreen monitor?
It was your laptop.
Oh.
So listen,
and
asshole.
It goes full circle. Here we go.
Sure.
Oh, man.
Wow.
But going into being more analog with the vinyl and of course CDJs after that, and getting into the software, was there a big transition for you there?
It's harder to find my music because as time progresses, like you know records by their sleeve.
Right.
That was a big thing back then. So switching over, that was harder. Even with the CDs, right? Because you're still buying stuff online, and no one's taking time to burn or to print pictures of all their albums. Well, some people do, but I'm not. I'm way too lazy for that. So I even had, buying Waves, right? They don't have all of the embedded metadata, so they don't have pictures either. So recently I've started moving all my collection over to AIF. So I do have the album cover. So that's starting to make, just now, right, starting to make my life easier and feel more, at home with the digital stuff, because I can skip through the library and see the picture of the covers, and then I know what I'm looking for. But memorizing that many names, and especially now, because, I mean, before you didn't buy as much music, right? Like, I would only take on maybe 20 new records a month.
Right.
And now I take on probably 30, 40 new tracks a week, right? And that's just, there's more coming out, right? And there's more availability of the music because, like, stores don't sell out.
Right, yeah,
right?
That's true too.
The music's always there. So,
no more limited pressings or...
Well, there are, but, but not digitally, right?
Yeah,
so...
Which I think also, it diminishes its allure, don't you think? If it's readily available and every jackass can possibly go out and buy a copy of this thing.
Have you gone out and listened to DJs lately? Outside of Dancing English, that doesn't count. Right? So No, it doesn't diminish it because most of them are not going out and digging for good music. They're all playing the same shit.
Well, there's that, and two, I would look on the other side of the spectrum of with so much out there, you really get your own little collections going, and it's more of like when you go up and talk to somebody about music and they talk about bands or something, and they'll drop 100 names you've never heard of. There's so much out there that unless you're just playing top 40, a lot of people could dig and find different things, and they could still be playing different things.
That's what creates a uniqueness to you. Like that,
right.
Building your personal library, if it's your record collection, your music collection, and it is based on your flavor, your style. If it's readily available to everybody, that helps. It doesn't make someone so unique that you buy a record and all of a sudden, 2 days later, the next guy coming down the line, he's got the exact same thing you've got.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys are playing the stuff that everybody's hearing. It's like the real popular stuff, the top 40 or the big arena DJs and stuff. But there's a lot of other like small scale production stuff coming out. There's tons of it now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are playing tracks that nobody else is listening to.
And a lot of it's not what you play; it's how you play it. Right.
That was my next point. Yeah.
And so that makes a good question. Then, how do you make you unique?
Well, so
How
part
do you?
so well, it's you play. I don't know how to, I don't know how to explain that. That's like a painter trying to express his creative process. I've never had to think it out. I don't want to, and I play around at home. I find things that sound good together. As much as you have the availability of 4 decks. You have the ability to, to sculpt the sound so differently now than you used to with just records and a mixer. You're basically hauling a production studio around with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So it's not, and then a lot of it just comes down to, even if there's a billion tracks out there, there's still only so much time that you have to play, right? So a lot of it's going to be, individual people picking what they want to introduce to people. Like there's a lot of things that you have that I don't like for me, right? You present them well, and when I hear you play them, I like them. But I'm not going to run off and buy it because it doesn't work for me.
Right.
Right. And that's a discussion between two DJs whose taste in music is pretty similar. Right. But even still, our collections are not as similar as you would expect.
Right. Yeah.
So.
But even turning the table on this one, you asked the question, but how would you define what makes you unique, Mr. Pete Dorr?
Yeah, Peter Dorr.
Oh, this isn't my interview.
I know,
That's
but you
right.
asked the question, so
To
it
him,
isn't
to Marcus.
But it isn't. It is a tough question, though.
How do you
and I'm
answer
curious if how you would answer it.
Yeah. So are we gonna turn this around and talk about me?
Can you?
I
Okay.
think we already did.
Yes.
right?
We just
So-
did it.
No.
Can you give
an
us the
explanation of another idea had nothing to do with me?
Can you give us the
You ask
short
the hard.
version?
You ask the hard questions. You have to answer them yourself.
The short answer.
The short answer?
2
Yes.
sentences.
It's the shit that sets me on fire.
The shit that's setting you on
On
fire,
fire.
is the shit that sets
Musically.
you
Let's
apart.
say you should probably see a doctor about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
preparation H is what I was thinking.
It's yeah. So no, the stuff that absolutely it just. I go over the top. I go insane. It sends shivers down my spine. That's the kind of stuff. It sets me on fire. That's the kind of stuff that I truly love. And if I'm playing it, that's I have no control over myself sometimes when it comes to that.
Right.
And so the music I buy, what I play, and how I play it. I don't know. I don't.
Do you feel like you operate in a specific audio language?
Kick ass.
Well, and there's a lot to be said about that too, and we talked about it, about just you playing something that makes you feel that way in an uncontrollable way, and when you play it, you do project that kind of energy out on people.
And
that you
I have
help.
no idea I'm doing it.
Right.
So
That's the short answer.
There you go.
That's probably the shortest answer he's ever given for anything ever.
I
And I'm
agree.
sure everyone is saying thank God, right?
Thank goodness he cut it off. So do you play out anymore, Marcus?
Not very often. I don't actively search for gigs. If somebody calls and asks, then, or if I'm going back to Oklahoma City and I feel like I want to play, I'll call one of my friends
Yeah.
that's still there playing. But I when I first moved to Dallas, I started DJing out, and there's just too many politics there, and it's a rat race, and I'm too old for that shit.
But I think you could do it if you wanted to. If you decided to really pursue it and spend more time doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I could spend a whole lot of my extra time doing that, or I could do it raising my kid.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
Yeah, good point.
But you talk about politics in the Dallas scene. It's just to high school, to who knows who and who's cool and who's not. Or
Part of it's that. Part of it's just that, I mean, the people in Dallas are, they've grown up together. They're a tight clique, and so. But there are there's there are politics based on their infighting and things like that, like any other family would be. And yeah, so I just don't have the patience these days.
I understand that.
So, but I mean, I still go out and and go to listen to other people, and I spend a lot of. I mean, like my release at home is still playing. I've thought about starting another radio show. I did a radio show. I get the eye from Justin. Oh, wait,
right.
Another one. Yeah, so I did a radio show on myhouseyourhouse.net for I think like 3 years. And they're internet house radio station that's out of the UK. So I think I had 2 or 3 different shows throughout the 3 years that I did at different time spots. And then ended up going to the Winter Music Conference and playing some parties with them. So that was really cool. That was kind of a landmark thing for me.
Tell us about your Winter Music Conference experiences.
And what year was this?
The first time I went was 95.
Okay.
And that was entirely different than my last experience there, which was 2000. I want to say 2008, 2009.
So tell me about.
But don't quote me on
first
that. I'm getting there. Jeez. So the first one was amazing. All these people. It was all these DJs that I heard these stories about, and getting a chance to go out and see them play. Probably the best DJ experience I had while I was there was at a party that Lolo Vega and Kenny Gonzalez were playing at. And we got there, and Kenny Gonzalez was playing. We probably played for another like 2 hours after I got there. And then the last track that he played was lots of percussion, right? Very Cuban style, Havana. Yeah. So anyway, so then Louis Vega goes on, and the bass starts to bleed out and the percussion start to filter off, and then voices in my head by the Police, the acapella, starts kind of coming out, rising up from nothing, and dude, everybody lost their shit. And it was a remix that he had done for AM/PM of the Police, but the acapella hadn't been released yet, and the new remix hadn't been released yet. So that was kind of its debut.
Nice.
Well, that happens every hour or every 10 minutes in Winter Music Conference.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, people are releasing all their brand new stuff.
Yeah.
So and it's the whole point of being there is to release your brand new stuff. So hearing new shit is, yeah.
Well, and at one point in time there was a separation between producers and DJs, right? So, all these producers would be giving all these DJs their in the past, right? In the early days, that's how it was. That they're giving them their fresh cut acetates, to get them to play it out at the conference, so DJs hear it and then go buy it, or so they can get signed to labels. Now it's just a mess. There, it's like the whole it's just nonstop, like DJs playing for an hour versus getting to go and hear one or two for a whole night. The coolest experience that I had that first year was hearing Barbara Tucker sing her new song that was getting released at the conference. We were at a singer-songwriter symposium, a panel, and after it was done, everyone's kind of meandering around in there, and she just starts belting out a cappella.
Wow.
And it was like goosebumps. It was fantastic. So then I'm like running around the record shops down there trying to find out who has the release, and I never did find a copy while I was there. I had to order it later.
So tell me about one of the so the conference also is it's a symposium. It's got workshops, classrooms, and one of these that you went to.
So the actual conference is like everyone talks about going to the Winter Music Conference. Most people that go don't actually go to the conference, right? Nowadays. So the conference itself is it's a bunch of panels and networking and new product release kind of stuff, and it's an industry thing versus all the parties. Most of them, especially now, most of them aren't like Winter Music Conference sanctioned. And what's the festival?
There's the Ultra. It's at the same time now. Yeah.
And Ultra kind of that was kind of the downhill spiral for the Winter Music Conference. So
you're at one of these classrooms.
Okay.
And you told me one story. I want you to tell it, but about Junior. Crossword puzzles.
Crossword puzzles.
Wait. Okay. So.
Girl with the billboard.
Yeah. No, the girl with the billboard. That was, and I can't even remember what was on the billboard now.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't. So we're another panel that I was at that was it was remixing, I think is what the panel was talking about. So there were a lot of people that gave really good talks on it. Junior Vasquez sat there the whole time, and I don't know if it was really crossword puzzles, but he was just doing something right with a pencil with his head down the whole thing, and I was like,
and his interest was his interest was zero.
Yeah, he didn't talk. I don't think he said a word the whole time.
Yeah.
His head was down. He was writing something the entire time. A lot of other people were engaging, right? So I think like Johnny Vicious was on that panel, and he was talking about remix work. I want to say Armin van Helden was on it. A couple other people that were doing a lot of the major label reworks at the time. And then
In steps.
Huh?
And then in steps.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. God, can I tell my own story?
Wow.
Anyways, so we're all sitting there, and it's just the middle of the panel. Like people are asking questions and stuff, and it's like it's at a hotel, right? So it's the standard like kind of conference
room
So there's a door behind you, a set of doors behind you on the right, and a set of doors behind you on the left, and where those doors are, there's aisles cleared out, and then in between them there's chairs, and on the other side there's chairs. So you have two doors, two aisles, and a space right in front of the panel, and and there are those loud doors, kind of right. So you hear, and everyone turns around, and there's this that it doesn't work this way. So everyone turns around, and the
sandwich boards.
Yeah. So
Don't cheat.
yeah, so this girl with nothing else on but a sandwich board walks, and I think it was promoting one of the parties or something. I don't think anyone was reading it.
Absolutely nothing but a sandwich board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of covered, but
right.
Still, so she walks in one door, walks down that aisle, walks in front of the panel, walks back up the aisle and out the door, just like that, right? Like, and everyone's kind of like, what the? And then there was some cheering and clapping because it's a naked girl,
right? And everybody going, "Did you read that board? What did it say?"
Yeah.
I didn't see
Where's
it.
she going to be later? Nobody knows.
That's right. So. But it was just one of those moments that was kind of weird and out of place.
But no, then the funny part, of course, is
I don't remember a funny part.
You told me about Junior's reaction.
Dude, it was seriously in 95. When did I tell you the story? 95?
You just looked up, saw this naked girl, and went, bitch, and went right back down to doing his crossword puzzle.
I don't remember him saying anything. I do remember him rolling his eyes and went back down. I mean, he doesn't care about naked girls.
No, yeah, he's flamboyantly good.
Right.
So.
Anyway, funny story. A whole lot more entertaining the first fucking time you told it than now.
Dude, I've drank since then and slept and...
Drank again and slept more.
So apparently that story was, more memorable to you than me. But I
No,
was
your
more
theatrics-
focused on the naked girl than I was,
And your theatrics and your storytelling ability on the story was so much better than just this time.
Well, it was probably super clear whenever that happened. My memory of it. So more emotion to be able to
All right, so
feel
cut
behind
all
it.
that shit out for the last 10 minutes.
No.
Do you want me to redo it like this? Oh my God! No,
Bring out your jazz hands for it. Come on.
Yeah. So it was a funny experience for me, but it's damn sure not as memorable as standing 3 feet away from Barbara Tucker while she sang.
Right.
And the hot girl was definitely more memorable than Junior's reaction. Funny or not. So, funny story from then that I do remember. So that same night at okay, so keep in mind this is I'm 19, and because I had a conference badge on, nobody ID'd me. So I'm 19 in all these 21 plus clubs, right? And I at this point in time in my life I didn't really drink, right? I mean, like, at all. So we're in the club, and I go to the bartender and I order Dr. Pepper. And, it's taken a long time and something's going on. I just think that he's busy, and the next thing I know, there's this fucking glass in front of me on fire. It's a flaming Dr. Pepper. Okay. And I go, what the hell is that? And the bartender was like, it's a flaming Dr. Pepper. I'm like, no, just a regular Dr. Pepper. Snatched it up and threw it into the dish bin, and I saw it break. And he goes, we don't have that here. And I was just like, okay, dick.
I love flaming Dr. Peppers. Those are fun.
I didn't know what it was. B, I didn't drink. I just I'm a
Says
kid
Melanie
from
the
Oklahoma.
arsonist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm a kid from Oklahoma that grew up on Dr. Pepper, and I never went to bars, so I didn't know that they didn't have Dr. Pepper.
Right.
So that's it. He got so mad.
All right. So and then, what were you say about 13 years later? You went to it again.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
13 years?
Yeah, 95, 2008.
Yeah.
Way to do math.
I know.
He's had a lot of time to do it.
I was just zoned out in his story trying to do this.
He's over there with his calculator app up, wait.
Abacus.
Hey, the abacuses are pretty fast, actually. You watch someone that knows how to use them. They're impressive.
True.
Can
But when
anyone
you
at this
don't know
table
how to
use one?
it, yeah.
No.
It's the same way of taking a new DJ and putting them on turntables. It's really painful to watch.
Right. Something we should all know.
So what were the differences 13 years later?
Way more DJs wanting to play. back then the DJs were there not to play; they were there to learn from other established DJs, the big names that were there, and go out and hear them play and hear what they're doing. And so I think that was one of the biggest differences. Is that now
it's more like the performance, the DJ side, and less of the conference and the networking.
Yeah, I mean it's not just the biggest of the big people that are playing, right? It's everybody's renting out the smallest hotel lobby and setting up gear to play. So and it's just there's a lot of douchey people. Not the DJs. I mean, just like because of the festival draw and all that stuff. It's just like Broville. So
different crowd.
Right. So I mean, back when I when I went, it was the first time. It was South Beach. It was like you like the Birdcage South Beach, right? I mean, it was still
like,
it was still super gay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was almost all either gay or Cuban. And
is there a difference? Just kidding.
Oh God.
Sorry, edit that out, please.
I actually thought that would be a joke that would be said when